Well, we're continuing our coverage of last night's high-stakes presidential debate this morning.
And there's a lot to unpack after the debate from last night. And to do that, we're joined now by political analyst Jerry Robert. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning, Joey. Good morning, Krista.
Thank you for being here. So we'll lead off with what you think are the biggest takeaways from last night's historic 90-minute presidential debate.
Well, as a matter of political theater, I mean, it was clearly a big night for Kamala Harris, for Vice President Harris. She just really dominated the debate from beginning to end. Primarily, I think, by defining the debate for those undecided voters about there on her terms. She talked about the future. She had him stuck talking about the past. She talked about the middle class economy, had him pushed back on billionaires. So I think for a whole number of themes, it was really her debate. It was on her terms. She was very successful psychologically in baiting him on a lot of trigger things that he gets upset about. And then I think, her answer on abortion rights was just masterful and really, I think, highlighted the multiple choices that he's had on abortion. And I think that's a very key issue for a lot of undecided, particularly suburban women in some of these toss-up states.
And Jerry, I do want to talk a little bit about former President Trump and some of the rather controversial claims that he made. He said along the lines, Haitian immigrants eating cats, dogs in Springfield, Ohio, and some Democrats allowing abortion in the 7th, 8th, 9th month, and even after birth. The moderators, of course, were quick to fact check him. What are the implications of the former president making comments like this?
Well, I think to a certain extent, and certainly with his base, his exaggerations and even lies are kind of baked into the cake for how people view him. However, getting called out in prime time like that with the reporting that's actually behind what are essentially these right-wing memes that go around MAGA Twitter, is not going to help him. Again, the key audience on this is the relatively very few undecided independent voters in a handful of states. And so I think to the extent that they saw him kind of sputtering about those things and arguing with the moderators and doing that sort of thing, it's not going to be helpful to him.
Vice President Harris said, quote, her and Governor Walz will always fight for the freedom to live free from the pollution that fuels the climate crisis, end quote. Now, when you look at Harris's climate policy, the word carbon emission is omitted, Jerry. Her policy shows a plan to drill for a record number of fossil fuels. And after last night, what do we really know about her climate policy this morning?
Well, I'm sorry, Joy. I think what we do know is what the administration, the Biden administration, has done so far, which has really taken the issue seriously to begin with, gotten us back into the Paris Climate Accords and pushed ahead on a number of green energy fronts. I think one of the questions that was kind of difficult for her, of course, is this issue about fracking, which is a big deal in Pennsylvania, which is perhaps the most crucial state. And when she ran for president previously in 2019, she said she was against fracking. I thought she could have done better on that answer. I thought she should have talked more about, how she had learned being in office, what it meant to compromise on these kinds of issues. But, putting forth a policy of, we need all energy sources now while we transition to green energy, I thought was an effective line of commentary for her. And I think, compared to former President Trump, who said climate change is a hoax, anybody who's concerned about that issue isn't going to have a difficult choice on that one.
And I do want to talk a little bit more about the vice president's tactics when it came to utilizing that split screen, taking that two-shot where they really are just side by side, former President Trump and the current vice president. Did you think that split screen worked in Vice President Harris's favor?
I did. She really showed a range of emotions and a very lively with her facial expressions and reacting to him in real time. I think former president, had his head down most of the time, and you could tell
Yeah,
really
we're going
from
over.
that point in the debate where she said that people leave his rallies early because they're bored. You kind of could see at that point his head almost exploded, and he was really kind of angry about that sort of thing. But she did that repeatedly with any number of issues about which he's very sensitive, and the result was that he ended up, talking about the past, trying to relitigate his record or trying to argue with her about something that happened that may be of not great consequence to voters, such as the size of his rallies. And she was able to pivot then, I think, very effectively, speak directly to the camera and, repeat this line that she had throughout the night, which is, I'm working for you. I'm concerned about your future. He's concerned only about himself. And having said that, it was even more effective that there was a demonstration of it in real time.
Jerry, former President Trump said, quote, "We're a failing nation. We're a nation in serious decline," end quote. What do you think of his assessment, and is there any truth to that claim?
It's I've been doing this a long time, and I can remember when the Republicans were the party that spoke optimistically about America and didn't like Russia, and that's kind of turned 180 degrees on its head. I think there's a way to talk about the problems that we have in the United States, and certainly we have a lot, without painting this broad brush sort of dystopian view of the country in a way that I don't think really aligns with how a lot of people experience their day-to-day lives. I mean, people are getting up, they're taking their kids to school. The economy prices are still way too high, but things are doing better. As the vice president pointed out, there aren't any U.S. military troops in harm's way, as of today. So, it's not exactly peace and prosperity, but it's also, not a Blade Runner that we're looking at. And so I'm not sure that view, that very pessimistic view of the country translates with people's experience.
All right, Jerry Roberts, thank you so much for your time and your analysis. We really do appreciate it. And hopefully we can chat again because, of course, there is the debate between the vice presidential candidates coming up, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. Thank you again for your analysis, and we really do appreciate your time.